If you're considering moving to Charleston, South Carolina, and are curious about the cost of living, then this video is for you. We're going to be talking about everything from housing affordability to the cost of insurance and taxes and utilities and all that fun stuff. So if you're the analytical type who loves numbers, then this video is for you. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Charleston, South Carolina, then subscribe below and tap the bell for notifications so that you can be the first to know about all things Charleston. Hi, my name is Sarah with eXp Realty, and I get calls and emails all the time from people just like you who are looking to make the smooth move to Charleston. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, send me an email, a text, or give me a shout on the phone, and I would love to help you make your successful transition here to this wonderful city. So according to salary.com, the overall cost of living in Charleston is 1.8% higher than the national average, and it's up 1.5% from just 1 year ago. Now, one of the most important factors when it comes to affordability is the housing sector. In real estate, we often talk about something called the Home Affordability Index. This measures whether or not a typical family earns enough income to qualify for a mortgage on the typical home based on home prices and income. So in Charleston, the median income is only 78% of what is necessary to qualify for a median priced home. So as you can tell, that's not really in alignment to mean that all families would be able to qualify for a home, which is a little bit problematic, obviously. According to ZipRecruiter, the average annual salary in Charleston is $56,489, and minimum wage here is the same as the national minimum wage, which is $7.25. We don't have a state law stipulating that it is any higher than the national average. So if you're coming from somewhere like Washington State, Washington, D.C., California, or other states that have much higher state minimum wages, this might be a bit of a shock for you. So given that, there is a significant barrier to entry in the real estate market here, especially as of recent years. You really need substantial savings to put down a larger down payment to help make the mortgage payment more affordable, or you need to make more money and have a higher priced income, or you could also, of course, live on the outskirts. It's going to be a lot more affordable to live somewhere like in Somerville or Alwynda or Moncks Corner, or these places that are a good 45 minutes to an hour away from the main hub of Charleston. So as of the recording of this video in May 2023, the housing market is still quite pricey here in Charleston because the demand is still high and the supply is still low. You've maybe heard about something that experts are calling the lock-in effect of recent years, because so many people got locked into a very low interest rate during COVID when rates were historically low, that now it's not making that much sense for them to sell unless they have to, because their interest rate is going to be so much higher now. So this is keeping inventory still very low, but there's still a lot of demand for people who are wanting to buy here. We have a lot of people moving here to Charleston still, and just in general, there's pent-up demand. So until something shifts where more inventory can come on the market, or something economically shifts that just makes housing prices drop, right now we're not seeing that. We're still seeing some appreciation, so it's continuing to keep housing prices pretty high. We look at housing market data at the end of each month. So for April 2023, the median priced home in the whole Charleston MLS is $405,000. Now, keep in mind that all types of homes, single family homes, townhouses, condos, and it includes all of the outlying areas. The national average right now is $408,000, so it's pretty in line with the national average when you look at it that way. However, the median sale price is still up 3.9% when compared to 2022 over the same period. So we are still seeing appreciation here in Charleston, and some markets around the country are not. Some markets are seeing housing prices decrease, like in Austin and Boise, and a lot of markets that really shot up over COVID. So when you look at real estate, you really have to look at a hyper local market, because while we have national numbers, it really is a local game, and you need to look at very specific markets, and the more specific the better. So even Charleston is a very large market, and looking at the different suburbs down to the specific neighborhood and even sometimes a specific street can make a really big difference. Now, according to Redfin, their pricing is a little bit different. They don't look at all of the outlying areas like our MLS does. So they're looking at Charleston and the surrounding suburbs, the closest ones. So their median price point is $523,415 right now. That's up 7.9% year over year, so almost up 8% from just a year ago. Redfin also reports on the sales to list price ratio, which all that means is that whatever the house is listed for, they look at the numbers to see what it actually sell for, and they are showing 99.2%, which means that the price that the house actually sells for is just about what it's listed for. Redfin says that only 14.6% of homes are having price drops, and that 25.9% of homes are selling above the list price still, which is a huge number. That's about 1 in 4 homes that are going above what the home is listed for, which means that there's multiple offers still happening. It's still pretty common from what I'm seeing in, again, very popular neighborhoods and suburbs, a house that's in really great condition, great location. They're still oftentimes in multiple offer situations. Now, I want to get into some of the different suburbs and the median prices, because again, they vary so much. And if you're looking to move here, you're probably wondering, well, what's the median price in this neighborhood versus that neighborhood? And I'll get to that in one moment. But first, I want to talk about rental prices, because some of you may also just be renting when you move here. According to Zillow, the average rent in Charleston is $3,000 per month. That's $430 more year over year. That's 37% higher than the national median, which is equivalent to $810. So that's huge. That makes Charleston very unaffordable for a lot of people. Now, of course, this can vary a lot. So Zillow reports that in North Charleston, the average rent is $1,800, which is, of course, significantly cheaper than the average of $3,000. On the other hand, Mount Pleasant, the average rent is $3,200, so that's above the average. Rent Cafe is another website with a lot of stats, and they report that the average rent for an apartment in Charleston is $1,938. So if you are moving here and this sounds too steep for you, you definitely consider getting a roommate. There are different websites online that you can find where you can just rent out a room, or again, looking more in the outskirts would definitely help your money go a bit further. Now, getting back to home prices, if you do want to buy, I do want to mention that there was one area in our MLS that was significantly down in median price from a year ago, and that's in the Allendale-McClellanville area. So that's north of Mount Pleasant going down Route 17. It's about 30 minutes from McClellanville to North Mount Pleasant. That was down about 6% from last year. The median price there right now is $320,000. So if you don't mind being in a smaller town with a bit of a drive into Charleston, then this could be a good option for you to consider. Now I'm going to run through some of the different suburbs outside of the main downtown area of Charleston, tell you how much they've gone up year over year, meaning from April 2022 to April 2023, since that's the most recent data we have, and what the median price is in those areas so far in 2023. So West Ashley, it's gone up 13%, and the median price home inside of Route 526, so that means it's a little bit closer to downtown, it's $486,000. Next, we have James Island, which has gotten up 9% year over year, and the average priced home there is $518,000. James Island is really close to downtown Charleston and near Folly Beach, so it tends to be a very desirable suburb. Next, we've had Johns Island, which has continued to explode over the last 5 years as far as prices go. The median home there is now $594,000. There's a lot of new construction happening on Johns Island, and that's gone up 14% in just the last year. If you're looking for the lowest median price out of all the areas in our MLS, then I highly recommend the North Charleston, Somerville, Ladson area outside of 526. It's still gone up 7.4% in the last year, but the median price is $290,000. And again, that's the one that I saw was the lowest out of all the areas. So that's definitely worth looking into. In North Mount Pleasant, we have the median price of $725,600. That's gone up 9.5% over the last year. And then Charleston downtown, the peninsula inside the crosstown, which just means it's south of Route 17 and really what you think of when you think of downtown, the historic district French Quarter, that's gone up 13% as well. And the median there is $948,000. And again, that includes a lot of apartments and condos, some townhouses, and also some single family. So I hope going over some of these suburbs in more detail was helpful for you. That way, if you are moving here and are trying to figure out which area of town makes more sense, then you can really factor in some of these prices into your decision making. Next, let's move on and talk about insurance. In the last year, the cost of homeowners insurance has really gone up a lot. Some people have said their insurance doubled starting in January 2023. Well, why is that? A lot of carriers actually left South Carolina starting in 2023. They're trying to mitigate their risk because there has been a lot of hurricane damage in the South and the Eastern coast that they just can't continue to insure these coastal communities. So they left, leaving people in a bind, having to find a different insurance carrier, or if they did stay here, then they just completely jacked up the prices. That being said, your cost of insurance is going to vary greatly depending on what part of town you live in, how old is your house, what kind of plumbing do you have, what kind of electrical, how old is your roof, how high is your deductible, on and on and on. Of course, I am not an insurance expert. I'm not an insurance broker or anything like that. I have some great referrals for you for insurance, but of course, this is really important. If you're getting a mortgage, you have to have insurance. And at the time that you go under contract, you can then shop around and see which insurance makes the most sense for you and your needs. According to NerdWallet, the average cost of homeowners insurance in Charleston is $3,270 per year, which equals $272.50 per month. On the topic of insurance, we need to talk about flood insurance. Flood insurance is required here for certain properties. About 51% of properties will require flood insurance if you are financing with a mortgage. Of course, if you're paying cash, then it's up to you whether or not you want to carry flood insurance. But we have different flood zones here. The one that does not require flood insurance is called the X flood zone. So if you don't want to have to pay extra money for flood insurance, I would definitely recommend looking at homes in an X flood zone. Even in an X flood zone, if you want to get insurance, I've typically seen it quoted for about $600 to $800 for the entire year. So it's not an excessive amount of money to pay if you do want the coverage, but again, it's not required. The homes that do require it, the premiums can range drastically from about $225 per month to $2,500 per month, which is an enormous difference. And that really just depends on which flood zone you're in. How close are you to the water, to the beaches? Do you have an oceanfront home? Obviously, the flood insurance is going to be a lot more for an oceanfront home compared to somewhere more inland. Next, let's talk about a really fun topic. Can you guess? Taxes. Our property taxes here in South Carolina are 4% for a primary residence. It's significantly lower than a lot of other states. If you're planning to buy an investment property here, meaning that you are not going to be living in it, you're going to long-term rent it or short-term rent it, then it is 6% instead of 4%. That is actually about 3 times the amount of money, even though it's only a 2% difference. But when you do the calculations, it could go from, example, $4,000 as a primary up to $12,000 as a secondary home. So that's something to keep in mind if you are looking to buy an investment property here, is that difference in the property taxes. Again, if you're financing a mortgage, this is going to be worked into your mortgage payment, so it's nothing that you would have to calculate. When you get your pre-approval for a property, your lender will let you know what the taxes are. When it comes to income taxes, we have a graduated rate. So the top tier is 6.5%. This is higher than a lot of states, but it's also lower than many other states. So depending where you're coming from, you may actually see this as a significant savings. So some of the higher states include New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Vermont, DC, California, Hawaii, Washington State, Oregon, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and a handful of others. How about sales tax? South Carolina has a 6% state sales tax rate, and then they have a maximum local sales tax rate of 3%, which, by the way, Charleston County is at 3%, which means that every time you buy something in Charleston County, it's going to be a 9% total tax rate. Berkeley County is 8% and Dorchester County is 7%. So there's some slight variations there. Those are the 3 main counties that make up the Charleston area. South Carolina ranks as the 18th highest state when it comes to these taxes. And overall, if you look at all the different types of taxes together, South Carolina ranks 31st overall in 2023, according to the Business Tax Climate Index on taxfoundation.org. If you are interested in taxes, then I would recommend going to taxfoundation.org. It's a great website that shows you all of the data across different states. Next, let's touch on utilities. Our utilities here are 17% higher than the national average, according to rentcafe.com. South Carolina is not a deregulated state when it comes to utilities like some other states are, which means that we don't have competition here for our utility companies. You can't shop around like you can in some other areas. So it really is just the price is the price, and you don't really, you can't just switch to some other competitor to get a better deal. So I know so far we've been talking about all the reasons that Charleston is expensive, but there are some reasons that Charleston is less expensive than other areas. One is our gas prices. Our gas is lower than the national average. So just looking at the prices today, our average tank of gas is $3.15 compared to the national average at $3.54. So that's 11% lower. Now, we are a car dependent town, so if you are used to driving a lot and commuting, then maybe you will save some money in gas. But if you are somebody that is used to public transportation, we do not have a robust public transportation system here. We do have some bus routes, but that's really it. If you don't have a car, then it's likely going to be a big challenge for you to get around here. It's not impossible depending where you live, especially if you're downtown, but just you want to keep that in mind for sure. Now for some other good news when it comes to cost of living statistics. Basic necessities such as food and clothing and groceries are 7% less in Charleston than in the rest of the country. Healthcare services like doctor checkups and dentist visits cost 6% less here compared to the national average. And then non-necessary expenses like entertainment is 7% cheaper in Charleston. Now, I will say when I go out to dinner here, I'm always kind of amazed at how much we spend, just even for 2 of us to go out for an entree, maybe an appetizer, maybe 1 cocktail. We will easily spend over $100 plus tips. So I do personally, just from my own experience, believe that the restaurants here are a little bit on the pricier side. Of course, there is a huge variety depending on what you're looking for. And I do think the cost of food overall has just gone up across the country over the last few years. So maybe that's just becoming the new normal. So overall, Charleston is more expensive compared to the national average, largely because the cost of housing is just not in alignment with our median income here. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't move here if you're considering it. Everything's relative, so it depends on where you're moving from and what the cost of living is that you're used to. It depends on your income. It depends on who you're sharing your living expenses with. It depends on what part of town you're in. There's just so many factors that go into it that it's not really a black and white. If you're thinking about moving here, I would love to chat with you and see how I can support your goal. You can schedule a Zoom with me below. I also have a 10-step buyer guide absolutely for free that you can download in the links below. And by the way, if you are a community hero like a doctor, a nurse, if you're in law enforcement, if you're a firefighter, a teacher, if you're a veteran or in the military, then I do give you a $1,000 closing cost credit if you work with me as your realtor, because I just love supporting our local heroes. So keep that in mind as well. I also have great connections with local mortgage lenders here who can really work some magic. So if you are wanting to move here, I definitely recommend getting pre-approved to see what you can afford and where your budget will lead you. So if you reach out to me, I'm happy to put you in touch with some lenders, and then we can go from there to help guide your decision about what part of town to live in. I hope you found this video helpful, and until next time, I will see you around Charleston.